Yes, I'm afraid it's true, and I'm really sorry. After 13 years of making Wheeler Dealers, I'm now going to be leaving the show.
You won't believe what happened to Edd China from Wheeler Dealers. He was a fan favorite, working alongside Mike Brewer to make the show a huge hit. But out of nowhere, Edd decided to leave, leaving everyone shocked. Why would he leave such a successful show when he was so important to it? Join us as we dive into the real reasons behind his surprising departure that will send shockwaves inside the entertainment industry. Edd China was a tall, soft-spoken inventor with a deep love for mechanics and known for making the weird work. He wasn't chasing fame. He wasn't trying to be a TV personality. He just liked solving problems, building things, and getting his hands dirty. But that quiet passion would soon launch him into the heart of one of the most iconic automotive shows of all time, Wheeler Dealers. In 2003, television producer Daniel Allam approached Edd and car trader Mike Brewer with an idea. A show where they'd buy cheap used cars, fix them up, and sell them for a profit margin. The concept was simple, but it needed the right balance. Mike would be the fast-talking deal maker. Edd would be the calm and hard-working mechanic. Together, they'd bring a car back to life. From the very first episode, Edd's presence was something different. He wasn't just a guy holding a spanner. He was the real deal. He explained what he was doing and why, taking time to walk viewers through each step of the restoration process. Edd treated every job with the same level of care and gave the audience credit for wanting to understand, and people loved it. While Mike brought the energy and the hustle, Edd grounded the show in reality. That authenticity became the soul of Wheeler Dealers. It set the show apart from other car series that focused more on drama than detail. As the seasons rolled on, the formula hit its stride. Edd's workshop segments became fan favorites, long repair sessions with quiet confidence and just the right amount of humor. And while Mike was out finding parts at lower cost and deals to work on, Edd was in the garage, doing the kind of work that made the audience appreciate him and know just how complex car restoration really is. By the time Wheeler Dealers was airing internationally, Edd China had become more than a TV mechanic. He was an ambassador for doing things right. Young car enthusiasts looked up to him. Veteran mechanics respected him. But as the show grew bigger, so did the pressures around it. Production demands increased. Expectations shifted. And while the audience were still there but behind the scenes, the ground was beginning to shift. And Edd, as always, saw it coming. In 2017, the automotive world was hit with a shocking news no one saw coming. After nearly 15 years of loyal service, Edd China, one half of the beloved Wheeler Dealers duo, announced his sudden departure from the show. There was something unreal about it. Edd had been the heart of Wheeler Dealers. While Mike Brewer handled the deals, it was Edd who rolled up his sleeves and tackled each mechanical problem with precision and patience. He was the educator, the craftsman, the guy who made even the most complex rebuild feel approachable. For the producers, it probably made sense. Slimming down the mechanical segments would mean lower costs, quicker turnaround, and broader appeal to casual viewers. But for Edd, it was nothing short of sacrifice. He couldn't be part of a show that was no longer about teaching and doing the job right. Edd had watched the soul of the show shift beneath his feet. What once had been about real repairs and clever problem-solving was turning into fast cuts and shallow fixes. The deeper mechanical work, the stuff that made Wheeler Dealers different, was being sidelined in favor of polished edits and surface-level transformations. He could have stayed, collected the paycheck, played along, faked a few scenes. No one would have blamed him. But Edd China has never been one to fake it. And walking away wasn't just a quiet protest. It was a message that in a world full of shortcuts, there's still value in doing things properly, that some people care more about quality than attention. But if anyone thought that would be the end of it, they were wrong. It was about to get far more sinister. He couldn't be part of a show that was no longer about teaching and doing the job right. Edd China's exit from Wheeler Dealers wasn't just a headline, it was a spark that set the car community furious. The focus shifted from Edd's calm announcement to Mike Brewer, his longtime co-host. To many viewers, their bond had always seemed solid. On camera, their chemistry felt effortless. But now, with Edd gone, people started questioning everything. Accusations began to target Mike, claiming that he was responsible for Edd's departure. The backlash was intense and deeply personal. Mike Brewer soon revealed that the situation had gone far beyond the internet. According to him, both he and his family had received harassment, threats, and disturbing messages. The attacks were so vicious that at one point, Mike admitted he'd been reduced to tears. And through it all, Edd remained quiet. But perhaps the most appropriate reason for Edd's departure was never about creative differences. It was about ownership, and who really shaped the identity of Wheeler Dealers. Meanwhile, Mike Brewer kept the show moving forward, bringing in new mechanics as Edd's replacement. But for the majority of the viewers, it didn't matter. The heart of the show was gone. Wheeler Dealers continued to air, but something had changed. The tone felt different. The magic wasn't quite the same. And even as the production value improved and the show expanded into new markets, a cloud of "what if" lingered over every episode. What if Edd had stayed longer? To this day, the relationship between Mike and Edd remains a mystery, because this wasn't just a job change. It was a rupture in a beloved duo, a shift in trust between creators and viewers. And while Edd walked away with his principles intact, he was far from done. Edd's next move left everyone speechless. After stepping away from Wheeler Dealers, Edd China didn't jump to the next flashy opportunity. Instead, he went quiet. While much of the automotive media world speculated about his next move, Edd was already laying the groundwork, not for a comeback, but for a reset, a chance to rebuild, and to do the process in his own way. In 2021, Edd returned with Workshop Diaries, a YouTube series that showcased Edd China's rebuild process in a more precise version. For longtime viewers, it felt like a homecoming. Every episode of Workshop Diaries is a reminder of why fans connected with Edd in the first place. He wasn't about selling the dream, he was about showing the process. From restoring old classics to fixing quirky inventions, the show offered something rare. The response was overwhelming, but not everything was smooth sailing. Producing an independent series isn't easy. Without a network budget, every episode was a labor of love, filmed in his own workshop, edited with a lean team, and supported by viewer donations, sponsorships, and merchandise sales. Even without the mainstream TV support, he's remained massively influential. While others scrambled for views, Edd built a loyal fan base. While others chased the next trend, he stayed rooted in what made him unique. Still, as Workshop Diaries grew and Edd continued to innovate, fans couldn't help but wonder, was this it? Had he found his final format? Or was this all just the beginning? Because for someone who'd walked away from one of the biggest shows in TV history, he seemed more driven than ever. And that's when the rumors began on Edd China that he was planning something far more bigger. Years have passed since Edd China walked away from Wheeler Dealers, but for many fans, the story still doesn't sit right. On the surface, it was a clean break over creative differences. A respected mechanic stepped away because he couldn't support the show's new direction. Simple, right? Maybe not. Because the more you dig, the more it becomes clear. This wasn't just a disagreement about content. It was a clash of values, priorities, and power. And while the official statements painted it as amicable, the silence and gaps in the story have only deepened the mystery. Let's start with the timing. Wheeler Dealers was still a global success in 2017. The fan base was huge. The format was working, ratings were strong. So why make such drastic changes? Why fix what wasn't broken? Discovery's decision to streamline the show, cutting back on in-depth repairs in favor of faster-paced, more entertaining segments, wasn't random. According to insiders, it was a calculated move to make the show cheaper to produce and easier to syndicate. And Edd? He stood in the way of that plan. The detailed workshop scenes that fans loved weren't just time-consuming. They were expensive. Every complex repair required extra filming hours, retakes, specialized equipment, and meticulous editing. In the world of high-efficiency television production, that's a cost center. Eliminating those segments saved money. It also, in the eyes of many, stripped the soul from the show. Some believe Edd wasn't just offered the chance to stay. He was pushed, quietly, strategically. He's hinted that by the time Discovery took over, decisions were being made without him. He wasn't consulted like he once was. He didn't have the same input. The creative control he'd helped shape over the years was slipping away. And then there's the rumor mill. Over the years, whispers have circulated online and among automotive circles that Edd's departure wasn't as voluntary as it seemed. One story claims he was given a stark ultimatum: accept the new format or leave. Another suggests that internal meetings had already positioned a new workshop model before Edd even had a chance to push back. Some even say he was deliberately excluded from the transition talk, left to choose between compromise or departure. Nothing has ever been confirmed, but that's part of the problem. The absence of clear answers left a vacuum, and in that space, theories started to swirl. When fans don't get closure, they start piecing together their own narratives. Then there's the dynamic between Edd and Mike Brewer. Their chemistry on screen had always seemed genuine. They bantered like old friends, respected each other's knowledge, and played to their strengths. Mike with the deals, Edd with the tools. But after Edd left, things got tense. Fans turned on Mike, some accusing him of being complicit in the changes or even playing a role in pushing Edd out. The backlash was so intense that Mike reported receiving threats, an ugly side of fandom that no one condones. Still, what stood out wasn't just the fan reaction, it was the lack of clarity between Edd and Mike. There were no joint statements, no interviews together, no mutual support in public. Edd stayed classy and diplomatic, never throwing Mike under the bus, but also never stepping in to quell the rumors. And Mike, for his part, seemed hurt, defensive, and overwhelmed. That silence spoke volumes. It still does. Another layer to the mystery is the network's own behavior. Discovery Channel, known for its tight control over brand messaging, never fully addressed Edd's exit beyond a few press lines. No behind-the-scenes documentary, no farewell montage, no real acknowledgement of what he'd contributed. That kind of omission doesn't just seem cold, it raises questions. Why wouldn't they celebrate one of the key figures who helped make the show a global hit, unless doing so would draw attention to something they didn't want public? Fans have also pointed to smaller details, things like the abrupt editing of Edd's final episodes or the way his name quickly vanished from promotional materials. Some even note how little Wheeler Dealers has referenced him since, as if his role in the show's history has been quietly minimized. It's not proof of anything shady, but it certainly doesn't feel like the send-off someone of his stature deserved. And maybe that's the real issue here. Edd China wasn't just a host, he was the technical heartbeat of Wheeler Dealers. His calm demeanor, attention to detail, and honest craftsmanship gave the show credibility. When he left, that credibility took a hit. And while Ant Anstead and later Mark Priestley stepped into the role with skill and passion, fans never fully moved on. Because what Edd represented wasn't just knowledge, it was integrity. That's why people are still talking. That's why speculation continues. Not because fans want drama, but because Edd's departure left a void, one that hasn't been filled, one that maybe, just maybe, wasn't meant to be. Whatever the truth is, Edd isn't saying, and maybe he never will. He's chosen to take the high road, focused on building, creating, and moving forward on his own terms. But the questions remain, not because people can't let go, but because they care. They care about the show, about the people who made it special, and about the quiet ways that corporate influence can change something meaningful into something forgettable. And so the mystery endures, quiet, unresolved, still pulling in theories and conversations from fans around the world. Because deep down, people still want to believe that there's more to this story, and that someday, they'll finally get the full picture. At this point in the story, it would be easy to say that Edd China's journey is about nostalgia, a tribute to a beloved TV mechanic who walked away when the show changed. But that doesn't really capture it. Edd's story isn't frozen in the past, it's still moving. And more than that, it's still shaping the future of automotive storytelling in ways many people don't even realize yet. Because what Edd represents goes far beyond one show, or even one format. He represents a kind of loyalty to the craft, to the audience, and maybe most importantly, to himself. That's rare. In an era where content is built for clicks and attention spans are measured in seconds, Edd took the road most wouldn't. He didn't pivot to reality TV drama. He didn't license his name out to the highest bidder. He stayed in the garage, surrounded by tools, quietly building something real, and people noticed it. The reputation of Edd China is what gives him the freedom to do whatever he wants next, and have people follow him. It's why his audience doesn't need fancy intros, high-end sets, or made-for-TV drama to stay invested. They're not just watching a show, they're supporting a person who stood for something. Still, the question lingers. Is Workshop Diaries the final destination, or just a pit stop? If you look at the bigger picture, you start to notice the signs of something brewing. Edd has been slowly expanding his reach, diving into collaborations, developing new tools, experimenting with different formats. He's been tinkering, not just with cars, but with ideas. Ideas about how to educate, entertain, and innovate without sacrificing substance. And people noticed it. It's not hard to imagine him building something even more ambitious. A full-scale platform, a hub for proper restorations, advanced builds, and long-form storytelling. Something that gives car lovers a real alternative to the algorithm-chasing chaos of online content and the overproduced gloss of modern TV. There's also the question of timing. Edd's departure happened just as streaming media was becoming truly dominant. The old gatekeepers of television aren't as powerful as they once were. Creators with a loyal following now have direct access to their audience and the tools to build whatever they dream up. And if there's one thing Edd China has always done well, it's build. He's also got something else going for him: time. Not just in the literal sense, but in the way he approaches things. Edd doesn't rush. He lets ideas develop. He's not chasing a viral hit. He's playing the long game. And that's why, even after years away from mainstream TV, his relevance hasn't faded. If anything, it's grown. Because while the entertainment world moved faster, louder, and flashier, Edd stayed still. And in doing so, he became something rare, a calm, steady presence in a chaotic space. Someone who reminds us that doing things right still matters, that care, patience, and knowledge still have value, that sometimes the best way to move forward is to slow down. So, where does it all go from here? Maybe Edd continues expanding workshop diaries into a self-sustaining ecosystem. Maybe he launches a new kind of motoring platform that brings in other creators who share his philosophy. Or maybe he surprises everyone with a return to broadcast, on his own terms, with full creative control. The truth is, only Edd knows. And if history tells us anything, it's that he'll reveal the next step when he's good and ready. But in the meantime, one thing remains clear. His legacy is intact. More than that, it's alive. Because Edd China didn't just fix cars on television. He fixed how we think about car shows. He made it okay to care about the details. He proved that you could educate and entertain at the same time. And when push came to shove, he proved that principle still matters more than paychecks. So, whether or not another big project is coming, whether or not he ever returns to the mainstream spotlight, Edd's place in the automotive world is secure. And not because of a title or a network or a logo, but because of who he is and what he built. Do you think Edd made the right call by walking away? And has Wheeler Dealers ever felt the same without him? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for further updates.